Hey, welcome. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful and maybe confusing forces in our lives, that deep, deep need to belong. It's a force that gives us these incredible roots for stability, but it's also something we sometimes have to break away from to grow our own wings. So, how on earth do we balance this fundamental human paradox? Well, let's get into it.
And let's just start with a question I bet every single one of us has felt. That sharp, almost gut punch feeling of being excluded. It's not just you being dramatic. It's a real biological alarm bell ringing inside you. So what is actually going on in there?
To get to the bottom of that, we have to go back in time, like way, way back. In this first section, we're going to explore why this intense need to belong is literally hardwired into our DNA. This isn't some modern fad, it's an ancient survival code. Okay, so let's get this straight right from the beginning. Belonging is not some fluffy, nice-to-have romantic idea. Nope. It's a hardcore, non-negotiable survival tool. Think about it. For our ancestors out on the savannah, being alone meant you were lunch. The group meant safety, it meant food, it meant you had a future. Belonging was, quite literally, life. And here is the absolute proof, right in our biology. When you're left out, when you're excluded, your brain lights up the exact same region, that's the anterior cingulate cortex, as it would if you, say, broke your leg. Evolution basically made loneliness physically painful, because for most of human history, it was just as dangerous. It's your brain's way of screaming a very, very clear warning. Hey, find your tribe and find them now. And if you need any more convincing, just look at where belonging sits on Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs, right there at level 3. Right after our most basic, primal needs for food, water, and physical safety comes the need for love and belonging. It's not some optional extra, it's a foundational pillar of what it means to be a healthy, functioning human. But here's the thing, like any powerful force, this drive can go in two totally different directions. So let's move on and look at how this deep-seated need can be both a life-saving medicine and a really destructive poison. The key, as you're about to see, is all in the dosage. And this slide just lays it all out perfectly, doesn't it? The two sides of the coin. And the right dose, belonging, is a medicine. It builds trust, it literally lowers our stress hormones, and it creates these amazing, vibrant communities. But you overdose on it, and that medicine turns into a poison. It creates this us versus them world that fuels exclusion, fanaticism, and hate. So that medicine version of belonging, it creates what sociologists call social capital. It's that unwritten trust that just makes a society work. It's the whole community showing up to help a neighbor rebuild a barn. It's the local shopkeeper who knows you and lets you pay at the end of the month. It's the passionate preservation of a unique local culture. This is the good stuff, the glue that holds us all together. So what does that overdose look like? Well, a lot of the time it shows up as micro-nationalism. As the world gets bigger and more complicated, our brains just crave a safe harbor. So we retreat into this intense, sometimes excessive loyalty to something smaller and more familiar. It could be our city, our region, even our favorite sports team. It's really a defense mechanism against what feels like an overwhelming ocean of globalization. Okay, but what happens when that safe harbor starts to feel less like a shelter and more like a prison? What happens when you feel that undeniable pull to grow beyond the tribe? This, right here, is where the journey gets really interesting and, frankly, incredibly difficult. To really get what the group's reaction is like, there is this perfect metaphor, the crab basket theory. So if you put a bunch of crabs in a basket, you actually don't need a lid. Why? Because as soon as one crab gets close to climbing out, the others will literally reach up and pull it right back down. And groups, whether they mean to or not, often do the exact same thing to keep their own comfortable reality in place. And this is so, so important to understand. When you start to change or grow or think differently, the group doesn't see it as your personal evolution. They see it as a rejection of them. Their question becomes a form of emotional blackmail. It's framed as betrayal to guilt you into staying and keeping the group exactly as it is. So escaping that pull is this painful 3-stage process. First, you hit what's called social chilling. And man, it's this brutal, cold loneliness where you doubt absolutely everything. Then you have to start the hard work of building a mental spine, which means forging a new identity based on your own values, not just what the group wants. Only then can you reach that final stage, becoming a truly authentic individual, someone who acts from an internal compass, not for a round of applause from the outside. It is a tough, tough climb, for sure. But the view from the top, it's completely transformative. After you survive the crowd basket and you forge your own identity, what does that freedom actually feel like? What do you gain when you finally grow those wings?
This slide just illustrates the two mindsets beautifully. You basically transform from being the cheerleader, right? Someone whose happiness completely depends on their team winning, who lives in that black and white world of us versus them. You become the observer sage. The sage isn't just taking a side, they're trying to understand the entire game, including the flaws and blind spots within their own group.
And I really want to nail this point home. This liberated person doesn't become cold or uncaring. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Their identity becomes fluid, free from all those rigid labels. They stop judging people and start trying to understand why they are the way they are. And maybe most importantly, their empathy, which was once just for their own tribe, expands to include all of humanity.
You know, at the end of the day, this entire journey is about perspective. You trade your small local street address for a cosmic one. It's like what the great Carl Sagan talked about with the pale blue dot. You start to see the world from that vantage point. You're no longer defined by the lines on a map, but by your connection to everyone and everything on this tiny, fragile planet. Which brings us right back here to our final question, and this one's for you. We all need roots. They ground us, they give us strength, but we also need wings. Wings to explore, to grow, and to see the world from a much higher perspective. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Are your roots and your wings in balance?